Hey Bookies, today we are going to go over some books that I recommend if you're looking for own voice recommendations. So let's get started. Now these are books that I am pulling that I think if you're wanting to start reading diversely, that these would be really good choices. We have books that are ranging from contemporary books, and I have some fantasy, and I think 2 mysteries in here. And it's a very small list. Very small list. But if you're looking for something to help you jumpstart on your journey to reading diversely, these are going to be the books that I think that you should start with. Starting our list, we're going to start with If You Then Me by Yvonne Woon. I've talked about this book a couple of times, but basically the lead of this book is Asian American, and basically she is a super smart computer programmer. Well, aspiring to be. She's still working on her computer program. When she gets when she gets accepted into this prestigious school, she goes and she's met with a lot of competition that she thinks are smarter than her, and she starts to get tied up in not so good business over there. This is a really, really sweet contemporary book. It talks a lot about programming, so if you're into coding, open source, stuff like that, this is probably going to be a good YA book for you, because it does talk a lot about that, and it's set in the Silicon Valley area, but also it talks a lot about expectations for yourself, competition, and believing in yourself, and there is a slight little romance in here. This is such a sweet book, and I absolutely loved it, and I can't recommend it enough. The next book I'm going to recommend is The No Family by Grace K. Shim. Our lead is a Korean American child. She grew up basically without knowing her father's side of the family, and her mother's side is kind of just limited to just her and her mother. When she does 23andMe on kind of a dare, kind of like, you know, whatever, she actually finds some of her father's family. She travels to Korea, she meets them, but there might be an ulterior motive as to why they sought her out on 23andMe. This is a really, really good book. If you're into K-dramas, this is going to follow a lot, kind of like the soap opera style storyline. But really it's about family, and it's such a good book. It's such a good book. I love it so much. The last book that I'm going to recommend that's kind of on the contemporary lines is You Truly Assume by Laila Sabreen. This is set in the aftermath of a terrorist attack, and instantly when people hear terrorist attack, they unfortunately think a Muslim person done it. When it turns out to be a white person, that doesn't really matter, because people are racist. So this follows our three characters. All of them are Muslim, and they are all experiencing a lot of racism that is happening with the fallout of this white terrorist. So when one of them decides to start a blog about their experiences and blog about how they're feeling and everything like that, the other two join in very quickly, and it talks about them building a really, really good friendship that unfortunately was started because of an extreme hate that a lot of people have towards them. It's a very sweet book. You're going to cry. You're going to need some tissues. But I highly recommend this one. That I think that this is one of those books that should be taught in high school. So next we are going to go into some mystery thriller-esque books. The first one is Hall of Fires by Samira Ahmed. This one, and you're going to need tissues for this one as well. This follows 2 people. One of them is a young boy, and when he makes a jetpack for like one of his clubs, I can't remember exactly what club it was, a racist teacher sees him and thinks it's a bomb because racism. And the boy is arrested. He becomes headline news. A lot of companies and stuff reach out to him, but that also makes him a target for his hometown bullies and white supremacist neighbors. A lot of the times when you're seeing the POV of this boy, he is already dead, and it's his ghost. And that's where our other main character comes in. She is a high school journalist that is dealing with a lot of microaggressions at her school and a lot of smaller forms of racism. When she decides to research what happened to this boy, because he is still classified as missing, it throws her into this huge investigation, and you're going through the book wondering what exactly happened, who killed this boy, what's going on. I'm telling you, like, I'm tearing up right now because it's such a sad book, but it talks a lot about having hope and fighting the injustice of the world. I very much recommend this one. And I don't have the book with me, but Samira Ahmed is one of my favorite authors. She also wrote Internment, which also deals with Middle Eastern / Muslim people. That book specifically deals in an... I'm so sorry about the cat. You've been fed, you're fine. That book specifically deals with, like, an alternate America, where Trump, who is president at that time, puts Middle Eastern and Muslim people into internment camps, a la what the U.S. did to Japanese Americans during World War II. So a lot about injustice in that one, and in this one, seriously, pick up a book by Samira Ahmed. Your worldview is going to change after that. And another mystery book that I'm going to talk about is Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Boulley. In this one, our main character is Ojibwe. They live on the reservation and everything. So our main character of this book, she is about to go off to college and everything, and she falls for this guy that's on a hockey team. But she discovers that he might not be who she thinks she is, and she gets thrust into this FBI investigation about drugs that are on the reservation. She starts doing a lot of investigating work for them, but that might also lead to danger for her and her family. This is a really, really interesting book. It's very, very action-packed and so much twisty, windy stuff. It's one of the perfect thrillers that I've read, and I can't wait to read another Angeline Boulley book. Last up, I have a lot of different fantasy books. I'm going to start with Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is such a fun book. I listened to it on audiobook, and I absolutely fell in love with it. This is an African scent book, and it kind of starts off with our main character explaining how she came about. Basically, she was the product of the lady and this other mysterious force who had her, and she's been raised alone a lot of her life, not really seeing any other children, when she is given this mission to go to the Children's Palace and be accepted there, because they have the Children's Palace. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically the prince, who will soon be king, he selects different people from different regions of Africa and or this African-inspired country, and they soon become like on his council, kind of, when he grows up. But right now they're children. So she gets told, you need to go there and you need to be accepted there. But there might be an ulterior motive as to why the lady is wanting her to be accepted there. It is, it's a little bit of a mystery, but there is so much fantasy. There's magic. It's so good. The audiobook, if you can get the audiobook, I recommend that. It's so good. And the way that the narrator talks and everything, it totally absorbs you into that world. It's so good. It's so good. And I've yet to read the sequel. No spoilers for the sequel. The next one up is going to be Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. This is an Asian-inspired retelling of the Daughter of the Moon Goddess, basically the Moon Goddess tale. So the story starts out with our main character. She is living like in a palace-type area on the moon, and her world is shattered when there are other people that come to the moon to pay her mother a visit. She's not really supposed to exist, our main character. When she gets found out, she runs for it and ends up in this area, and she's trying to figure out what is actually going on, how she can help save her mother. And also there's a love triangle involved. This is more of new adult books, but it's such a good book. There's not really anything graphic in it, so if you're younger, I think you could read it. Check with your parents, obviously, but such a good book, and I absolutely love this book, and I can't wait to read the sequel. If you're looking for something more urban fantasy, I recommend Reverie by Ryan LaSala. I keep wanting to call him Brian, and I don't know why. But the story revolves around our queer main character who is found kind of half dead by the police, and they have some sort of unknown magic, and when stuff starts disappearing, people start disappearing, and the world starts warping, it leads to our main character having to go into action mode. That's a very vague way to describe this book, but there's so much that goes on, and it's just so action-packed. Like, this book does not let up. I feel like I'm going to give away something if I tell you more about this book. So if you're looking for something set in like a more urban fantasy setting, I'd recommend this one. If you're looking for something that's more like a medieval fantasy, I recommend A Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulhurst. This is such a sweet fantasy book. It involves two main characters, and they both fall in love with each other. It's a sapphic romance. One of them is a princess who is about to form a union, basically get married to this prince of another land. And she has a secret. She has a fire affinity. But magic is banned there, because magic is always banned in these places. I don't know why. It's so cool. But she starts to soon fall for the prince's sister. When an assassination happens that leaves the kingdom reeling, the two girls have to band together, and that's how they start falling in love. I've not read the sequel. It's on my TBR. I was supposed to read it for a readathon, but didn't get around to it. But this book, so good. I can't wait to read the sequel, and I recommend to you. This was my first queer romance book that I had ever read. Anything queer, this was the first one. This is the OG, so I have a lot of feelings tied up into this book. And the last one, which is more dystopian vibes, it is The Sound of Stars by Alecia. This is set in a world where aliens have taken over, and our main character, she is a demisexual black teen who is... You got words about this book? I'm sorry. Who is trying to hide a lot of artifacts that are being destroyed by the aliens, specifically books. When she is found out by this other alien, that cat has feelings about this. When she's found out by another alien, she figures out that maybe this alien is not who they really think that they are. It kind of goes into like the home vibes. If you ever saw that cute little animation by, like, I think this starred the guy from Big Bang Theory and Rihanna. But the aliens are who they seem to be, and they soon go on a cross-country trip escaping authorities and stuff like that. It's bonkers, but it's so good. I would actually put it above the fifth wave for me personally for alien dystopian YA books. I know that's very specific, but I am a dystopian lover. Check this one out. So yeah, that is everything that I recommend that you get started on if you are trying to look to read diversely. Drop some recs below for anyone else that is looking for diverse books. But yeah, that is it for this video, so I will see y'all later. Bye!